Hi, I'm Milla and welcome to another recommendations video on the channel today on a genre I've not touched on for a while, romance visual novels. This is a genre thriving on the Nintendo Switch outside of Japan. Yep, there is demand for romance VNs on consoles nowadays, not just PC. In this video I want to focus more on underrated romance visual novels specifically. So many titles get buried because the visual market outside of Japan is so big now compared to 10 years ago. Even on Steam, a lot of major releases get buried. I have games for almost all orientations and genres in this video. Unless you're into yaoi, because most BL companies have yet to port their stuff to Switch at all, even in Japanese. Looking at you, Nitro Plus. Anyway, please like, comment, subscribe, algorithm boosting stuff, etc. Let's get straight into it. Otome game fans really are sport for choice nowadays. Back during the Vita era, if you wanted to play an Otome game on consoles, you only really had 3 options: Hateful Boyfriend, London Detective Mysteria, or a dozen Idea Factory Otome games. Nowadays, so many Otome games are localized on the Nintendo Switch, even Idea Factory's own games are now lost in the mix, hence why I'm discussing Love and Pretend. Set in modern day Japan, you play as Chiyuki Ueda, a young upstart following her dream to become a scriptwriter in the Japanese film industry. However, Chiyuki also seeks to find her long lost father, a man she knows exists but never met. Eventually, Chiyuki gets cast in the role of a love interest for the films each of the 5 guys are acting in. Yep, Chiyuki must pretend she's their lover, hence the game's name, but over time, their love becomes real, and it's so sweet and wholesome seeing these characters bond and develop authentic romance. Oh, and of course resolving the overarching story regarding Chiyuki's father. Unlike most Idea Factory Otome games, Love and Pretend has a minigame titled Pretend Time. These are structured sections where Chiyuki must keep up the act of loving her love interest. Most of these conversations take place with the love interest around, but interestingly, some of them don't. You've got to select the correct choices in order to proceed the route and unlock the ending. I think this is a nice change of pace compared to the typical text-only reading you normally get with Otome, plus the music is really nice too. Love and Pretend is a romantic comedy visual novel on the shorter side, with 5 guys to romance. It's a nice way to spend 20 hours, and is a great palette cleanser between the longer, more intense visual novels you might also enjoy. And given how other Otome Switch titles like Piafore, Cupid Parasite, and Verche Evermore are more popular, Love and Pretend has fell under the radar a bit. So if you're into Otome games and you want something light-hearted, consider picking up Love and Pretend, especially if it's on sale. One of my core aims with niche gaming is trying out titles from as many different developers as possible, especially if they're notable in Japan but not overseas, or if they are, only on PC. Senran Banka, 1000 Colors of Love, is one of these games I tried out. I did not expect to enjoy this game as much as I did. I became interested in checking out this game due to the reputation of its developer Ubisoft. Ubisoft are one of the most popular adult bishoujo game developers in the PC visual novel scene. They're known for their distinct sense of humour, character tropes, and storytelling that you see across all their titles. If you dig Ubisoft's style of game, you will likely become a massive fan. Or at least be open to playing more of their games, but Valve does not erroneously ban from Steam anyway, which is ironic because Ubisoft, much like their English localization partner Neko Nian, rose to prominence throughout the late 2010s thanks to Steam. Tangent aside, Senran Banka itself is set in the rural village of Hori. You adopt the role of Masami, who attempts to pull out the legendary katana Murasame Maru from the village stone. In doing so, he accidentally breaks the sword in half. A bizarre chain of events follows suit, because of course this is a visual novel. Masami must atone for his sin by marrying shrine maiden Yoshino. Murasame herself also turns out to be a spirit living inside the sword, because of course she does. And there's also supernatural elements. Senran Banka sounds unoriginal at first, but its traditional Japanese setting, alongside these supernatural elements, means there's a lot more to Senran Banka than meets the eye, especially the battle segments. Masami himself must learn to wield Murasame Maru, the real sword, to help lift the curse plaguing Hori. I really dug this game's overarching story, which helped me stay engaged. And yeah, there's definitely bishoujo fan service in this one, which did gross me out a bit. This is part of Ubisoft's signature style that even rubs some diehard bishoujo fans up the wrong way. The bulk of this is in the con route though, so it is front loaded. Alongside the overarching story, the heroine routes are where Senran Banka really shines. Not only does the romance generally feel authentic and real, but the routes also go in directions you may not expect. Some routes are more serious and dramatic, while others are light-hearted and very laid back. The variety of routes mean even if you dislike a particular heroine, you may love their route, and vice versa. So why is Senran Banka underrated? It's not so much that the game itself is underrated. Senran Banka is by far Ubisoft's most popular Steam release ever, with over 10,000 reviews. It's more that most people have no idea Senran Banka even came to Nintendo Switch to begin with. Western PC publisher Nekonian ported the game to the Switch on Ubisoft's behalf, marking the developer's first console port since the PSP. It's a fairly under-the-radar release, with the limited run distributed physical release pushing the bulk of Senran Banka's sales on the Switch, which, to be fair, Senran Banka is among LRG's most popular distribution titles, and arguably is a great fit for the model. Senran Banka may be a great fit for your Switch visual novel collection if the story and characters interest you, or even if you're a Bishojo visual novel fan starving for Switch romance titles to play on the go, especially physically. I think this is a great game, and you should consider checking it out. Next up, we're going to talk about Genzo Manage, which is the most recent visual novel localization as of the time of writing this video. Set in historical France, you play as Emma, a young woman who lost her memories at a young age. She must hide the fact that she's a witch. One day, a travelling amusement park named the Rev is visiting just outside her hometown Blancbourg. When Emma goes to visit, she soon discovers the horrifying truth that all the park staff cannot leave the park and are trapped. Only Emma can free them. Therefore, she agrees to work for the Rev part-time, beginning one of the most deceptively happy and cheerful visual novels I've ever read. Keyword, deceptively. I think Genzo Manage is underrated because, as I suspected would happen, few people talk about the game now it's been out for a while. And this is a huge shame given the pedigree of the developer Mages. This is easily one of Mages' best visual novels in recent years across all genres, with their signature style of storytelling peppered throughout. This is one of the few Mages romance visual novel titles with an official English localization. Therefore, if you enjoyed their romantic subplots and other visual novels like Steins Gate, you will appreciate what Genzo Manage has to offer. Even if you're not into otome, the overarching story is fantastic and the presentation is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend you experience it, and if you are into otome, you will love the guys here, alongside a different developer's take on the genre. I'm sort of brief with this one because I did make a full video on Genzo Manage when P-Cube first localized it into English. I'll leave a link to it down below. We're going back to the early days of the Nintendo Switch for this next game, World End Syndrome. This mystery visual novel is set in Mihati Town, a fictional seaside town in rural Japan. You play as a high school student whose name you decide as he seeks to forget his tragic past in this idyllic paradise. As he settles into his new life, he learns about the Mihati Town's Yomabito legends, discovers a mysterious murder and other things that show all is not what it seems in Mihati Town. World End Syndrome captures a unique juxtaposition which is kind of difficult to grasp unless you actually know what I'm talking about. On the one hand, you have a relaxing day-to-day life, whether you're going to school, visiting the local cafe, having romantic beach dates, or having lots of banter with your friends. However, this VN also has an underlying sense of tension where you know something is afoot and the world still holds a bunch of secrets, and it's just about noticeable that you cannot truly 100% relax. And I found this really interesting, and it's greatly emphasised more by World End Syndrome's recommended route order, because the early routes are a lot more cozy and romantic and slice of lifey, with romance over the overarching story, while the later routes, much of this overarching darker story alongside the various mysteries, are resolved. This is why World End Syndrome is worth reading through to the end, because both the overarching story and romance are very satisfying. As of 2025, World End Syndrome is still exclusive to consoles. It was released in English on the Switch and the PS4 after all. P-Cube published the game in Europe only, hence why the English physical version is exclusive to that region, and it is really pricey to get hold of. This limited availability, alongside the lack of a PC port, means a lot of people skipped World End Syndrome, and is why nowadays not many people talk about it. If you find a copy of this game at a good price, I definitely recommend checking out World End Syndrome. There's also word of a sequel named World End Phenomenon, which exists in name only at the time of making this video, but hopefully it will come out sooner than later. This game is one of my absolute favourite visual novels that I played in 2024, Everlasting Flowers. Where there is a will, there is a way. The newest visual novel from the recently revived developer Sprite. In this game, you play as Milla Sakashita, a depressed teenage girl who lives a life of self-imposed isolation. She believes that she doesn't belong anywhere else, and it's quite sad. At the behest of her mother, Milla spends a month at a rundown seaside lodge. There she meets Ran Sano, another teenage girl with a somber past of her own. Both girls become great friends, learn to trust each other, and find a purpose in life. But this tranquil existence can't continue forever, and that, among other things, is where all the complex emotional drama and devastation within the world of Everlasting Flowers stems from. Everlasting Flowers is one of the best presented visual novels I've ever read. The music is absolutely beautiful. There are literally dozens of CGs and unique character portraits, so every scene is different, alongside the sound effects and great writing. Everlasting Flowers is a treat for the eyes and ears, at least when you're not crying, that is. Everlasting Flowers is a halfway house between anime and the more traditional visual novel design. There are a few other games like this, such as Marco and the Galaxy Dragon from Tokyo Toon, while Everlasting Flowers is quite a short visual novel at around 6 hours. It more than makes up for it with its beautiful presentation, memorable characters, and strong narrative. This game fell under the radar for a bunch of reasons. First of all, Everlasting Flowers attracted some criticism with its romance because some people think it's yuri baiting, because the characters don't actually enter a relationship. However, I think this criticism is unwarranted. Not only is there a strong narrative justification, but the game's ending clearly opens the door for a fan disc, including more overt yuri. No spoilers here, you gotta read it for yourself and you'll understand. When you combine this with the fact Sprite plans to develop more games like Everlasting Flowers in terms of this budget and scope, I don't think this is the last we'll see of these characters. The other reason is accessibility. Sprite never attempted, at least not publicly anyway, to release Everlasting Flowers officially in the West, not even on the eShop. Therefore, if you knew about Everlasting Flowers before watching this video, you're either an importer or you follow the PC visual novel scene. The Japanese version of Everlasting Flowers has English on the cart physically, and many import sites like PlayAsia and Amazon Japan make this clear. But even getting a hold of this game is more expensive than most imports because it's such a niche title. Most Western storefronts like Video Games Plus don't stock the game. Hence, I believe if you only had the means to purchase one Asia-exclusive Switch visual novel with English text, Everlasting Flowers is a great title to pick up. It was one of the biggest Switch visual novel releases of 2024, and had Sprite released this game in the West with a bigger marketing push, even in 2025 or later, more people would realise just how fantastic this visual novel is. I highly recommend it. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. What underrated Switch visual novels do you recommend? Have you played any of the games I've listed here? Let me know down in the comments below. Please like, comment, subscribe for more content like this. Consider becoming a channel member if you can afford to and want to do so. Thank you so much everybody. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.